And here we go. Hello, everybody. Thank you so very, very much for clicking on. It is the American Doofus channel, and the show is Eyes Open. A little bit of the wild, the weird, and the wonderful, as we do quite often here. And tonight, an F-15 fighter jet shot down at an air show by an alien. And also our beginning story, our top story for tonight. What happens when the classes end on the colleges? Something nobody's really talking about. We're coming up on the end of semester or the end of quarter, depending upon what particular schedule the individual colleges and universities are on. But nonetheless, summer break's coming up. And what happens when classes end? Now, the campuses are still open during the summer break. A lot of people take summer classes. I graduated early because I took summer classes all 3 years, and that made it up for anyway. This isn't about me. What happens? Well, as I said, that there are still going to be, kids on the campuses for some summer classes, but the majority of things are shut down. That's when the maintenance does their thing, especially in dorms, etc. So, what happens when the kids leave the campuses? We're gonna be discussing that tonight. I'm gonna start off real quick before I get into the scroll. I'm gonna say hello to Not Going Away. Thank you for everything you do. An F-15 shot down by an alien. Yeah, well, we got some footage. We're gonna show you here coming up. Hey, stick around. It's I don't know. It's hard to say. It's incredible footage. We'll just say that. Okay, this is going on at a lot of campuses around the country. Students converting to Islam. This is, I believe, this is Rutgers University, and they also have a hunger strike going on there. Some of the students have said that they're not going to eat until their demands are met. One thing about, what happens when the classes are over? What happens when it's summer break? These kids that have converted to Islam, are they going back to their communities? What are the reactions going to be from parents? There's a whole lot of stuff that you make decisions, and there are consequences that you may not even consider, especially when you're making decisions at an age such as these students are. Am I denouncing them for converting to Islam? I'm not denouncing them as much as I'm questioning whether they understand what they have committed themselves to. So with that being said, let's move along and get through our stories of the night, because we do have some video coming up that might show a UFO. I should have UFO instead of alien in the title. I apologize for that, and I will correct it. I showed this guy the other night, and people ask, was that a joke? Was that a comedy skit? This is Jerome Powell, once again, chair of the Federal Reserve. And these are the people that are making the decisions and advising the administration. I'm not going to say they're advising Biden because that's a whole different thing. But anyway, they're advising whoever's making the decisions in the administration. I will say that, and I do question whether anybody there knows anything about economics.
Simply flooded the system with money.
Yes, we did. That's another way to think about it. We did.
Where does it come from? Do you just print it?
We print it digitally. So we as a central bank, we have the ability to
print it digitally. So that means like they're just creating it's just creating it digitally, as if there's no consequence.
You create money digitally, and we do that by buying treasury bills or
okay, you create it digitally, but you do so by buying actual treasury bonds or bills. He looks down and to the left. Okay. I was a supervisor for a security team during the Super Bowl when it was in Indianapolis. So I had like 3 months of training before the 3 weeks of the Super Bowl. And they taught us some recognition because this, it's the Super Bowl and there's threats of all kinds of threats that you don't know, you never hear about unless you're anyway. And one of the things they taught us was if somebody lies, they're looking down and to their left. And he appears to be, as he's telling us this,
bonds or other government guaranteed securities, and that actually increases the money supply. We also print actual currency and we distribute that through the Federal Reserve banks.
Simply flooded.
So they actually print currency, but they're actually creating money digitally. Again, I think it's because we will eventually find out that none of this matters. None of it has any significance because there are too many other things that they know are coming, that whatever they do really doesn't matter. That's the only logical explanation I can come up with at the moment for all the bizarre stuff that seems to be going on around the world and within our government and the decisions that are being made. Why is the border, why is the southern border still relatively accessible, if not wide open? Because Donald Trump told the Republicans, don't close the border because I need to run on that. Well, Joe Biden could do an executive order as president of the United States, but yet neither one of them really want the border closed. And it's not, there are bigger things other than Trump and Biden. And I've been saying this for a few months now. I did a whole episode. Are these just distractions? And I'm just giving you something to think about. But Israel launches airstrikes into Rafah. This is 4 hours ago. 16 people killed. There was a ceasefire, supposedly, that was going to be taking effect. Hamas had agreed to it. It was brokered through Egypt. Israel had agreed to it, and then evidently they are not agreeing to it. This is the question. Actually, we're doomed, aren't we? And this is our it should be our lighthearted moment. Whoa, 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 whoa. Oh my gosh. It should be our lighthearted moment of the show, but actually it's okay. They're trying to fill up the mustard bottle, trying to get the recruit to fill up the mustard bottle. And now you can't do it through the tip. You got to tip that, put the lid in so it makes it like a funnel. And then they all clap for him, and then the person kind of gives the expression that we probably all have when we think about the government and any actual choices that we are allowed to fantasize that we have. Be prepared for a planned quote unquote giant emergency. This again comes from Canada. There's something's going on up in Canada, and I think we ought to pay attention. I think it's an arrow. I think it's a sign. Canadian Armed Forces and local police are doing door-to-door quote unquote wellness checks. They're basically asking, how are you doing and how are you prepared in case of a giant emergency? They're also giving out brochures of whoops. Here we go. I want this full. There we go. They're also giving out brochures of everything that you should have in case of an emergency, and to be ready because emergency preparedness starts with you, quote unquote. The exercise is called Trillium Venture, and it's going on from May 3rd to May 5th. And the Ontario Police Department, the purpose is to enhance interoperability with governmental departments as they work together to respond to a simulated extreme heat scenario. My first question is, what is this extreme heat scenario that you're talking about? Are you talking about temperatures? Are we talking about an attack, a simulated attack? The World Economic Forum likes to predict everything that's going to happen. Okay. But you get the idea. It's hang on. Hang on. Give me a second here. I'm doing the production while we are live, and I hit the wrong button. So she talks about the whole thing, and she's not the only video out there. So we can officially say it's no longer conspiracy theory. The CIA director admits plans for geoengineering, aka chemtrails. Now, when the CIA admits something, that means it's been going on for a long time, and there's too many people that have found out about it, so you got to admit to it. For those that wonder how the CIA might work, the CIA doesn't admit to anything unless there's too damn many people that know about it, and we can't kill them all. So those of you that have been, I'm not angry at anybody that has sent me emails or comments or anything about any of this. I'm not angry at all. I just hope you can learn a lesson from this. Don't believe everything. Don't, just because the government tells you there are no chemtrails, there's no such thing, and everybody's a conspiracy theorist or whatever. We have no idea of a lot of things. We in this country, the people that claim to have rationale and intelligence, we actually don't know a whole lot about what goes on in our country. A lot of people don't understand how the government works. A lot of people don't understand how elections work. But those are all for a different episode, because we've got chaos in Tel Aviv. Netanyahu tried to sabotage a hostage deal. This is what I was talking about. That could be signed at any moment between Hamas and Israel. And Netanyahu's trying to sabotage it. And the mass protest, around 100,000 is the estimate that was out on the streets of Tel Aviv, the capital of Israel. Okay, endocrine, the devil's immortality drug. If there's any question as to why there are so many child abductions, giving you something to think about, could this be the reason? Possibly. Chinese people entering through the southern border of California, near the San Diego border, they're destroying their IDs when they cross over, and they don't want people to know who they are. No clue who's in their country. And we've been talking about this, Chris and I've been talking about this for a while. This should not be a right issue. This should not be a left issue. This should not be a Republican or a Democrat issue. This ought to be a concerned citizen issue.
Across the border, and they're deciding they're trying.
Because if people have been put here to cause us harm, it's us. All right. They're not going to stop and ask if you're a liberal or a conservative. Just saying, something to think about. Okay. When everybody's constantly trying to focus us at each other, maybe we ought to be looking behind us. Maybe we ought to be thinking about who's doing the pushing and start standing back to back instead of face to face, yelling at each other. Again, just something to think about.
Hey, this is Bill Wells. I'm down here at the border, and I'm at my friend Corey Godero's house, who's going to take us down and show us what's happening at the border. But he lives right here, and you should see this. All of these IDs on the wall are IDs that he's found in his yard that people have just discarded after they've crossed the border. Some of them, as you can see over here, they've been lit on fire. You know, they tried to burn them. A picture they found in two different locations that was obviously torn apart. So what's happening is they're getting across the border and they're deciding they're trying, at least being instructed, to destroy these IDs. Now, these are Middle Eastern IDs. We've got lots of people here from Turkey, but over here is really interesting. Well, all these IDs on the top are they're Mexican IDs, but they're Chinese nationals. And I have no idea how they get the Mexican ID, but these are people from China.
So,
hey,
I don't know if you've ever seen the series TV show Survivor, but people get voted off the island. And if you look at the world as a big giant game of Survivor, a lot of people trying to vote the United States off the island. Just something to think about. Also something to think about. And I've said this, and I'm going to keep saying it. There are no good guys. When you look at Israel and Palestine, when you look at what's happening there are no good guys. All right? There are no good guys. I'm going to read this to you as we move along here. I'm sorry, I haven't been on for a couple of nights, and there's been some weird stuff happening, and I kind of feel like one way or another, we're going to not be able to talk like this very soon. So I need to get this stuff out while I can, whether it be through censorship or whether it be through the internet going down, or the whole damn grid going down, or the whole country going down. I honestly think that our time is limited, and I feel even more so our speech. A major attempt is being led to open that crack of censorship, where the first step is you can't, and when we talked about the legislation, that you can't say anything negative about Israel. And if you don't agree with something, you ought to have the right to say you don't agree. If you think there's a genocide going on, I'm not saying there is, I'm not saying there isn't. I'm saying if that's what you think, we're in America, we ought to be able to say that. But they're trying to push a rule, say, oh, well, it's basically for college. It's not. It's basically the first step in a total censorship, a total attempt at thought suppression, and a total attempt at total repression and oppression is what that gate could lead to. And again, just something to think about. All right, here's the oh crap. Why is this doing this to me? All right. Here's the quote. Our race is the master race. We are divine gods on this planet. We are as different from the inferior races as they are from insects. In fact, compared to other races are beasts and animals, cattle at best. Other races are considered as human excrement. Our destiny is to rule over the inferior races. Our earthly kingdom will be ruled by our leader with a rod of iron. The masses will lick our feet and serve us as our slaves. And the question was asked, who stated this? And the college class said Adolf Hitler. And the professor shows that it was actually, I might even play this here.
Human excrement. Our destiny is to rule over the inferior races. Our earthly kingdom will be ruled by our leader with a rod of iron. The masses will lick our feet and serve us as our slaves. Any idea who said that? Hitler. Yeah, I would have thought that too. Menachem Begin. Many of the Israelis, many Jewish scholars know that their covenant is with them.
So again, I think a lot of people are supporting things that they don't totally understand on both sides, and there are no good guys. Thanks for clicking on. Thanks for hanging out with me. We're rolling along here, and I got to reboot now back to where we were. Okay, we're going to stay with Israel here, and we're going to stay with Menachem, or not with Menachem Begin, but we're going to move to Bibi Netanyahu. It's Holocaust Remembrance Day, and we'll just listen in for a moment here and give me a chance to get a drink.
80 years ago, in the Holocaust, the Jewish people were totally defenseless against those who sought our destruction. No nation came to our aid. Today, we again confront enemies bent on our destruction. I say to the leaders of the world, no amount of pressure, no decision by any international forum will stop Israel from defending itself. As the Prime Minister of Israel, the one and only Jewish state, I pledge here today from Jerusalem on this Holocaust Remembrance Day. If Israel is forced to stand alone, Israel will stand alone. But we know we're not alone, because countless decent people around the world support our just cause. And I say to you, we will defeat our genocidal enemies. Never again is now.
So there we go. Israel with some strong words there, aimed at the United States. You notice he didn't say the United States. He said good people from all around the world, because quite frankly, there's a tremendous amount of pressure going on why is the United States behind what is being done here? This is the elimination of a people, not the elimination of a paramilitary organization or a militia or a band of, whatever you want to consider Hamas. There are no good guys. There are no good guys. Israel forces raided the Al Jazeera office in Jerusalem. They took away journalist equipment. Israel has to stop killing and attacking journalists. It's odd that that this comes up after we did the episode talking about Civil War, the movie, based upon how four individual journalists navigate and perceive what is happening around them as an overthrow of what's left of the government is about to take place. Okay. I found this guy through a recommendation, and he's really good. And this is some information that I'd heard about, like I don't know, maybe 20 years ago, and no, maybe 40 years ago, and I'd kind of forgot about it.
Have you ever wondered how we got to this point where one of the biggest lobbying groups in America can openly brag that they are representing a foreign country? This is from AIPAC's website, but somehow they don't have to register under the FARA Act as someone acting on behalf of a foreign actor. They literally brag about how many millions they spent and about how 98% of their buying of our politicians was successful this election cycle. Did you know that they were actually this close to having to register as a foreign agent before a certain thing happened? Here, I'll show you, and I'll show you where you can find all these primary sources too. So if you go to this URL right here, israellobby.org/AZCDOJ, it's a history of when AIPAC almost had to register as a foreign agent. And back then, they were known as the American Zionist Council. Right there, the American Zionist Council. Well, it turns out that President John F. Kennedy was about to force them to register under FARA. And this is a history of all of the original documents that pertain to the legal case. And when you click on any of these links, it'll take you to original archived sources of the actual documents from the actual testimonies that you can read. Even cool little snippets like this that say federal lawyers are near a decision on whether to require the AZC.
This is the value of the internet. People that look and dig and come up with actual receipts and show you, I could come on here and come on here and just tell you things. I like to show what I'm talking about. I like to bring the receipts, and this is how we get our information as accurate as possible. Those of us that care about accurate information, we know that everything is going to be biased when we see it on the televisions. They are bought and paid for, and that makes us really dangerous online. And again, hats off, and I will show you who this is after we listen to it a little more.
To register as an agent of the Israeli government. And back in June and July of 1963, the federal government was nearing a decision requiring the American Zionist Council registering as an agent of the Israeli government. Americans of whatever faith believe firmly that America is their country and America alone. The Zionist lawyer, Mr. Lenvin, advised that public registration would be injurious to the American Zionist Council. You might notice that the Honorable Donald Rumsfeld as 1963 went on. It all heated up. And by October of 1963, they were saying things like forms are enclosed for the use of the American Zionist Council in registering under the Foreign Agents Registration Act. But then what happened in November of 1963? The president who was spearheading the whole thing just suddenly wasn't there anymore. And to be clear, I would never infer that Israel had anything to do with that whole thing. I'm just saying it was really convenient timing that it happened to turn out that way. And then in December of 1963, we get this document. As you know, our client is not prepared to register as an agent of foreign principal or to concede that it is subject to the registration requirement. December 11th, 1963. And to this day, the single most influential big money group in Democratic electoral politics is not registered as a foreign actor. Although the U.S. Justice Department clearly states that FARA requires the registration of anyone that represents the interests of the foreign principal before any agency or official of the U.S. government. All the rest of that also applies. That's just the most obvious statement. Because if they were registered under FARA, they would have to disclose where all the money's coming from. And they don't want to. So they just don't. And that's how we wind up with screens like this. And with AIPAC openly bragging on the internet about how they pay to get candidates to win, despite their policies being clearly unpopular with regular people in America. And that's why it's so important that we stop China from subverting our democracy by controlling what we see on our social media apps. You feel me?
Okay, I told you I'd tell you, this guy's on TikTok. So I'm not on TikTok. That's what he was talking about. Maze Love is one of the people that do repost him. So if you see this guy, watch his stuff. He's got some good things to think about. Otherwise, we wouldn't be showing you them on here. Indiana Senator Mike Braun, running for governor of Indiana. Indiana's primaries on Tuesday of this week. Mike Braun said the Supreme Court was wrong to legalize interracial marriage. Okay, he's not talking about, he's not talking about same-sex marriage. He's not talking about anything current. He's going back to the 1960s. He wants to stir things up from the 1960s. Just giving you something to think about. Okay, here we go. Finally, we are at what some of you have been waiting for, and I thank you for waiting for. Tic Tac UFO shoots down an aircraft during the thunder over the Michigan AIRSHOW. This came in 11 hours ago. Is about 12 hours. Yeah, I guess maybe 10 hours ago is when I got the notification. Hey, you need to see this. Well, that's okay. Here's the tic-tac-toe and the tic-tac-toe, the tic-tac UFO, and here's the fighter jet. I got three different angles here. Because when I first saw this, I thought, okay, that might be a blimp. But it's not. You can see it comes in from the opposite direction. Now, let me go to the next. And that's where it's actually shot down. You see the pilots eject. Now, I covered this story. You can go back and check. I covered this story when it actually happened. And it was it was put out as a malfunction. Nothing to see here. Everybody's safe. Apartment buildings were hit, but fortunately, no one was in them. I remember the report, but there was no Tic Tac. There was no Tic Tac video or Tic Tac UFO in the footage we were shown back then. Again, you can see it right here, and I've got one final view right here, I believe, is where you see it following it in. No, I guess that's just the still. So this is the and you can kind of see that the tail gets blown off of the fighter jet. So just something to think about. Now, we played what Menachem, or not, well, we played what Menachem Begum said. Yes, we did. And we played what Benjamin Netanyahu said. We got to play this as well.
Here, and it will be. The flag of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah will be, inshallah, on the White House. And the American people are waking up now.
Allah does say that the whole world eventually will be under his ruling. The world will come down to where everybody obeys the laws of God. Simple as that.
We will force Islamic Sharia, inshallah. Here, and it will be. The flag of La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah will be, inshallah, on the White House. The American people are waking up now.
Allah does say that the whole world eventually will be under his ruling. The world will come down to where everybody obeys the laws of God. Simple as that.
We will force Islamic Sharia, inshallah.
Okay. There are no good guys. Maybe the freedom that what we have as freedom is an illusion. It's not as absolute. It's not as all-encompassing as we would like to be and like it to be. And maybe a reason a lot of people won't listen to opposing sides is because they know deep down that it's not what they think things are. And again, I'm going to say, maybe we as Americans ought to start looking at standing back to back, having each other's backs instead of screaming at each other over politicians that don't know any of us, let alone care about any of us, and quit being suckers for the illusion. I'm sorry, just something to think about. Pentagon confirms Americans sharing an airbase with Russia, troops in Niger. I reported on this a couple of nights back, and the Pentagon has confirmed it. I think that was earlier today. It might have been yesterday when I got this. It was yesterday, May the 4th. Happy Cinco de Mayo, everyone that celebrates. Got another 20 minutes left. I got another little thing on this from Niger coming up. Virginia State Police pointing guns directly at these students on the anniversary of the Kent State Massacre yesterday. I want to get this brief video up full screen. You can see his and if not before, the next time Chris and I are on, it would be next Friday night. If I don't mention it before, we're going to talk about these projectiles, these so-called rubber bullets. I did a couple of episodes back in when things were going on in Louisville, and they say rubber bullet, and it gives you the idea that it's just a piece of rubber being thrown at you, and it's not. It's a potentially deadly projectile. Now that might be a pepper ball gun. The footage from UCLA definitely shows them firing at the students. And again, what happens? Where does all this go? As the title of tonight's episode suggests and asks you to think about, where does all this go when the classes end, when summer break happens? Reports of at least 3 bomb threats yesterday being called into synagogues. None of the threats were deemed credible. Chaos breaks out at the University of Virginia. We showed them starting to march in. They sprayed tear gas and arrest pro-Palestinian protesters. The incident was triggered after the protests at the school hit a quote-unquote turning point on Friday. After the school refused to comply with all the students' demands, the students initiated a standoff with police. And you see the same kind of tactics. The police will grab one and pull them behind the line and arrest them and take them away. They tend to go after the most aggressive at the front. You saw some spray come over the top there from the police. That's when the pepper spray started. Pepper spray burns really bad. Makes it tough to breathe. It's nasty. Not as bad as bear spray, but all right. I mentioned that Russia and America are currently sharing a base in Niger, and they also shared a dance, which I find an incredible juxtaposition to what is going on in the world. But nonetheless, it asks the questions, why can't it all be like this? America and Russia needn't be enemies. And maybe if that TikTok video is true and it did shoot down that jet fighter, maybe the whole world ought to start looking at getting back to back instead of screaming and trying to kill each other, instead of just us here in America. Something to think about. In the meantime, I can't play the music, but you can see Russians and Americans exchanging dances while they are sharing an air base in Niger. And I'm sure that they're probably even celebrating Cinco de Mayo now that I see all the sombreros back in the back. I had not noticed that in the background before. So anyway, there are, we don't have to be where we're at. I mean, we are where we're at. We can't, even though a lot of people try to pretend, we cannot deny where we are at. And I don't know if we still have anything to say or do about what the future holds, but I would sure hope that we're at least thinking about it. Because Klaus Schwab said, quote, "There will certainly be a black swan event. Not inconceivable there may be several black swans all at the same time. In order to build back better, the globalists must destroy society as we know it." See, I think that's what we're seeing in Gaza. I think Gaza is a microcosm for what people want to go on in the rest of the world. They're tearing Gaza down not because they're after Hamas. They're after the oil. They're after the natural gas. They're after the beachfront properties. They're after the land. And you must destroy before you can build back better. We ought to be hearing that. As far as the Black Swan event, an unpredictable event that is beyond what is normally suspected of a situation and has potentially severe consequences. For those that have been watching this whole time, thank you very much. I love you all. For those that are just watching right now, thank you very much for watching. I love you as well. But this ties the whole thing together, because in Canada right now, they're going door to door and asking people if they are prepared for a gigantic event. You think that's coincidental? Could be, but seems rather odd. At 700 meters below the earth, allegedly, an ocean has been discovered 435 miles deep. Now, this report doesn't come from, Billy Bob out of the basement. This comes from WION, India, the country of India. It's their number one broadcast station.
What lies below the Earth's surface? The crust, the mantle filled with hot lava, the deep and bubbling hot core. Yes, all of that is true, but there is also something else there. Scientists have found an ocean under the Earth's surface, a massive one at that. Sounds staggering, right? Let me tell you all about it. The discovery has been made some 700 kilometers deep into the Earth. The ocean lies just above the lower mantle in something called the mantle transition zone. The water is present in a rock known as ringwoodite. And do you know how big this ocean is? About 3 times the volume of all the planet's oceans combined. So if you take all of the Earth's oceans and triple them, that is the amount of water discovered inside the Earth. What lies below the Earth?
Giving you something to think about. The wild, the weird, the wonderful. Not a lot of wonderful tonight. Wonderful Tonight, great song by Eric Clapton. One of my favorite slow dance songs of all time. The United States has sought to overthrow more than 50 foreign governments, grossly interfered in elections in at least 30 countries, and attempted to assassinate more than 50 foreign leaders. That's the China foreign minister reminding his compatriots why they should vote us off the island. Yeah, we've done all those things, and we're still probably the best country in the world to live in at the moment. Today, if you're just joining us, we talked about weather modification. More than 52 countries across the world are using weather modification programs. Just another conspiracy becoming conspiracy fact, but you knew this already. The scale of the weather modification is incomprehensible to most people. Anyway, China building the world's largest weather modification system. Now, what if those Chinese balloons going across weren't just balloons? They could have been, probes, as we say, probing the defenses to see if the balloons would be taken serious. And, we could get an EMP out of it. We could get suddenly massive weather anomalies. Because when we find out about these things, we don't find out about them as soon as they happen, obviously. This stuff's been going on for probably decades. And again, when enough of us find out about these things, they have to start either telling bigger lies in hopes that they repeat it enough when we believe it, or they have to come out and say, yeah, it's all real. So, with all that being said, I'm going to jump over to the chat real quick. And again, thank you all for being here. Hello, Fred, 100 Black Q, Renegade, Cornelius. Have you heard from Grandmaster Jay? I have not heard from him. You know what? I've been thinking about. I hope I'll write it down so I remember. I'm going to reach out Monday or Tuesday because I think people would be interested to hear what Grandmaster Jay thinks about what's happening in Haiti and in Mali and in some of the Western African countries, and see if maybe he'll talk to me and we can get a phone interview. Let's see. Yeah, everybody thought we were crazy when they said there's chemtrails in the sky. I remember as a kid, I remember as an adult what the skies looked like. You know, I've always lived in areas that were high airliner traffic, and then you see the patterns, and it's different. It's not normal. Now, people that don't live in areas that have this happen to them, they probably think we all are crazy because they themselves don't see it. But just because you don't experience something doesn't mean it's not real. And a lot of people are so sucked into themselves that they think that that they are the epitome of epitomes, and if it hasn't happened to them, it hasn't happened to anybody. And we got way too many of those people in the world. But I don't want them depopulated. I just want their eyes open and their hearts softened. Yeah. Those are not common police. I'm assuming you mean the ones that the ones that were at the with the students in Virginia, and the last thing I showed there. The police since the summer of justice, the summer of George Floyd, of course Breonna Taylor, and Ahmaud Arbery. Every time I mention it, I hear the chant in my head is, I don't want to say another motherfucking name, because there were just so many names. Elijah, the kid that was a celloist that had an emotional problem, and the cops killed him for it. Anyway, the police have been, they haven't forgot how to deal with this. They've got, and actually just the opposite. They put together specialized groups that, so no, those weren't just common police that come in there. It's not just, you're unless it's massive, you're not pulling people off the street, per se. They are in these are units that are instructed. By the way, a lot of them are instructed by the Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF. A lot of Israeli training in our police departments. Make that what you will. So, thank you all. I appreciate you all being here. I'm going to change the title to, because it says alien, and it should say UAP to be politically correct, UFO to be nerd correct, and I'll make sure we correct that. So I'll be back on tomorrow night at 11 probably. I'm not sure, it just depends what happens, but I know for sure that we will be on Friday night at 9. Chris will be here, and we'll be doing basic world situation rep, world sit rep, talking about things going on all around all around the world and focusing on what's going on in our country. So until then, thank you for being here. Greatly appreciate you all. Love you all like chocolate chip cookies. Stay strong, everybody. Wish you nothing but peace, love, much love. And remember, it is a dark world. So do try to be a light. Thanks for watching.